Constantine, a Hellblazer podcast.
Hey there, everybody. Welcome back to another episode of Hell Talk. Today, as always, I'm joined by my co-host, Hoku.
Hey, everybody.
And today we're going through the rest of the Warren Ellis run, which is issues 140 through 145, and then the little extra issue called Shoot that was never printed until like 2011. So, yeah.
So short and sweet, we hardly knew ye.
Yeah, this is like barely a run, but it feels like all the single issues that we went through this time made it feel longer, like more of a full run than it was, because there's like a lot of different things that happened, because normally you get like, oh, there's 6 issues of story. This was like, oh, each one is a story, so it kind of felt like there was 6 stories in it or whatever, you know? Like,
And it was less of a run, more of like a light jog,
yeah, a jaunt.
a deviation.
Yeah. And I like I said, I couldn't figure out what happened. Was he supposed to do longer and then he went to Transmetropolitan or something, or he just didn't want to do it anymore? I don't know. So that's why because he had the first story arc and he set up a lot of stuff and it felt like he was building a world, but then he did a bunch of one-shots and it was like, okay, I guess maybe he knew he was leaving, so he's just kind of like, I have all these ideas. But yeah, so a bunch of one-shot issues. I know you like one-shot issues, so like, did you like this half with all the one-shots?
Normally I do, but I don't know. This time it just felt a little too short, you know? Like, I mean, shorts are great in between arcs, but we didn't get like the second arc after the short, so it just felt sort of like he had his arc and then he had these little, I guess, raindrops of stories, and then it was like everything was done. It was like a storm was supposed to happen and all it said, it was just like a slight drizzle, and then it just went away and you're kind of left feeling like, oh, that was it. It's kind of hard to have feelings about it because it was so short.
I gotcha. I when I was reading this, so we read I had read the first story arc and I was like, that was okay. It was kind of weird. I hope the second half's better. And then I liked all these individual stories quite a bit. So I was like, oh, okay, like this is better in my opinion. Yeah, like I had a fondness for this like second half, but you're right. It did feel short because it was short. I mean, it was 4 issues, 5 stories. Somehow he fit 5 stories into 4 issues, and then a 2-story or a 2-issue arc that didn't really feel like him or anything. So really, Warren Ellis was only in like the first 4 of this chunk, because whoever Darko was, the writer that did that stuff, those 2 issues at the end, I think, I don't know, it didn't feel at all like a Warren Ellis story. So
Yeah, that's another thing too, is there were so few stories that there wasn't really enough time to get to know who he is as a creator. I mean, unless, you read other stuff that he's done. But if I'm reading this as just, I'm reading Hellblazer and I'm reading the work that is presented to me, by these creators in these different arcs, I don't really get a feel for his stuff beyond it's, intense and it's creepy. And there's definitely some like moments of just, oh, can't believe you went there. So, I mean, yeah, I guess you get that sort of edginess to it, but I still don't really feel like I know who he thinks John is.
Okay. Yeah. I could definitely see that. Yeah. There wasn't a lot. He didn't give you a lot of meat on the bone for John. Although there was some stuff I did notice that I was like, okay, this is the way he sees John or wants John to be seen as, his version of John kind of thing. We'll talk about that at the end, but, okay. So issue 140 is called Locked. That one is about like a dude who's a serial killer who's, not stuck in this room, but he won't leave this room in his house and the police have found dead bodies in there, and they've tried to go in, and whoever goes in there gets murdered, or they murder each other or whatever. So they call John. Watford calls John. What did you think this was a creepy issue? Did you find it creepy?
Oh yeah, it was totally creepy. It had sort of what's the thing I'm trying to think of? I can't remember the name, but it has a really good locked room feeling to it, obviously, because the dude's locked in the room, and then John comes in and he's essentially locked in the room too. Yeah, I liked the feel of this one.
Yeah, I did too. I thought it was like really, I don't know. It seemed kind of classic John, other than the fact that like John is helping out Watford. I was like, why does he? I mean, I get like he might have a cop on his like you owe me list, but for like him to be called and then John to be like, I guess so, I'll help out or whatever. I don't know. It just felt weird. Like they're more. I know at the end of this, he's like, don't call me again, Watford. But I just felt like he was going to call him again at some point.
Yeah, like he was going to bring another weird mystery or weird situation that was beyond his scope, and he would need John to help him out again. It seemed like they were setting something. He was setting something up with that, like call me maybe sort of feeling. But I also think that the reason he answered is kind of what we talked about with the previous arc, which is John sees himself as this better guy, at least in this version of him. I'm not that bad. So maybe the other Johns, the way they were written, would have just told this guy to just, fuck off. But this version of John is kind of like, I help people. That's what I do. I'm a pretty good guy, compared to other people. So I feel like that's why he answered the call.
Yeah, that's a good point. I did not forget that we had mentioned that, but it was just like, yeah, that was like a theory in my head. But yeah, now that you say that, it does, I guess, line up for this. I think I told you in the last time we did Hell Talk that Watford does come back in Mike Carey's run. But I don't know if he's as much of a dick. I only read like 2 issues of that, and I was like, I'll wait till we get there. And then I was like, but Watford was in it. So I was like, okay. So he kept that character later on.
Oh, yeah, I forgot about that. No, that is cool. I'm curious to see if he's the same guy or written the same way with somebody else behind the reins, or if he's going to also go through a character change of some kind.
Yeah, he did seem pretty creepy in the first arc where he's calling Isabel it and stuff. So we'll see what Mike Carey does with him, in a year or whenever we get to that. But
sounds like fun time.
Yeah, exactly. So yeah, one thing I did notice is Ellis really tries to lean into, we'll say, dramatics with John, and by that I mean like, and this is kind of a theme through all of these issues that he writes, at least the first 4. John just kind of mysteriously appears out of the darkness, and it's like, and he keeps saying, one thing he does say that he never said before in Ellis's run is, hello, Squire. Every time like he appears in a room, it's like he walks in a room, it's all shadowy, and he says, hello, Squire. It's like, I don't know, he's like giving John like a catchphrase / like entrance motif.
I honestly didn't notice that.
I didn't notice it the first time I read it and did it for the podcast, but then when I was re-going through it, I was like, oh, like every time he walks into a room, if he walks in, sometimes he just appears in the room, like in the crib. But yeah, if he walks in, he always closes the door and says, hello, Squire. I'm like, that's new. That's a new thing that he never did before.
That is kind of funny. Now that you mention it, I had never noticed that, but you're right. That is definitely not something old John would have been key to do every time. Like you said, like a catchphrase.
It's like a new confidence, or like I said, he's being dramatic. Like he's waiting for the shadows to like come in, and like
it's very Batman now that you mention it. Like that sort of like appearing from the shadows. Just being there to just be like, oh, I'm here now. That sort of maybe that's what it is. It's sort of a Batman-y influence, mysterious, foreboding feel they're trying to give him.
I don't know if Ellis ever wrote Batman. He probably wrote something before of Batman, but I don't remember a run or anything he did. But yeah, like it felt like, and I could be wrong, but maybe this was set up in the last arc, the Haunted arc, where he got that like the power, or not the power, but like where he was astral projecting himself, and like that was dramatic, right? Like that he set that up, that kind of way John is gonna kind of go at these things, where he's not actually like in physical danger. He's just like mysterious, and so like I feel like that's the way he's going. And yeah, I don't know. This is like, did you feel like you didn't even notice it? You said so. I guess I just picked up on it later. But but
Oh my God. Do you think that he was trying to give him sort of the power to like move literally through the shadows by like being able to connect to the city? Oh my God. I did not even think of that either. Holy shit.
yeah, I was like, is this like a thing he's trying to like make happen? Because multiple times it's like he appears from the shadows, and John's not like a super stealthy guy generally, at least that I've seen.
Yeah, he normally just kind of stumbles into stuff. Oh man, like now that you say it's I don't know why I didn't see it before. You're right. It's like he just appears out of nowhere, sometimes halfway through the issue, and then all of a sudden he's just like, I'm here now. Or no, what was it? Hello, Squire.
Just out of nowhere.
Oh my goodness. Wow, that is so weird.
Yeah, and I don't know if this is just new powers or if it's
maybe it's artistic license, like maybe the artist was drawing it that way and he didn't mean literally he would come out of the shadows anywhere, but that's just sort of the way the artist interpreted whatever the script might have been.
Possibly. Yeah, it could be that. It could be like, oh, he just wants John.
If it's not literally planned, then it could just be sort of our artistic interpretation. But I guess you could take it either way.
I thought that was like this last time going through it. I was like, oh, maybe that's what it was. Like, I don't know, but he didn't get to really go forward with it, so we don't know. It's a mystery. It could have been set up, but who knows? Yeah. So that one is weird. I mean, but it's really cool. I like the way he like finds the floorboards full of dead people and stuff. Like, I don't know. He's got like a sixth sense now, where he can like sense the evil, which might be also a new power because, he sensed the evil, or he captured the evil from London and healed himself in the last arc. And then maybe from Ellie, I don't know. We were saying maybe he got that from Ellie, because he took her evil. So, but yeah, it was I liked this issue. Did you like this issue? Like the locked room with this serial killer?
I thought it wasn't bad. I mean, I love the premise. I just feel like it's still, I mean, I get it's only one issue and it has to be wrapped up, but it still felt like John didn't really have much of a challenge with it. Like, there was a moment where he was like, oh, I feel a little nauseous or something. But overall, it didn't really seem like he was affected that much. Whereas other people were like instantly murdering each other or themselves. And he was just kind of like, oh, I think I have a little indigestion. Anyway, like, knock you out and get out of here, you loser. So
knock you out, stab you with a light bulb and electrical or whatever.
Yeah, like he's just like, aha, I've defeated you. Now get out of here. So it's like, and then I'm also going to burn the place down. So it, I felt like there could have been a little more stress. It reminded me of the issue where he was kind of finding his footing again at the, what was it, like the football match against that demon, where it was just sort of that it wasn't necessarily easy for him in there, but there was still sort of that, sort of like it didn't really take much to quote unquote beat the demon, it was like, but this just felt in a different way of where he didn't really have to try that hard to defeat this guy, almost as easy as like beating that magician, It seems like these are really great like situations and premises, but then he just like with one hand tied behind his back can just be like I win,
Yeah, I think a demon might be more hardcore to beat than like serial killer dude who's like poisoned the area. So maybe,
but it's like 20 years of like soaked in death and blood, and if a normal person can go crazy in like seconds, you'd think it would do more to John than just make him a little sick.
Yeah, he could have had some kind of thing where he had to like fight it, and maybe the killer was like creepier, like going around him like he like
and actually maybe like tried to get a swipe at him or something, and he actually maybe fell over a little bit, but then he's like, aha, I can feel your victims, and then the rising up, and then overwhelming the guy. So I felt like there could have been a bit more tension and a bit more drama there, but it just seemed over so quickly when it had such a really cool hook to it.
Yeah, yeah, I gotcha. I did think it was like a good, like kind of a refresher after that haunted arc, though. I was like, okay, we're kind of back to like John being a badass or whatever, like John not being sentimental necessarily, and all that. So, but then we got issue 141, which is the crib issue, which was the craziest fucking story when I first read it. I'm like, what the hell's going on? But yeah, this one was about supposedly the Antichrist has a crib. He was born in Bethlehem the year after Jesus, and his aborted fetus was put in this crib, and then it's been passed down through generations of people finding it, and it attaches to you, and then the Antichrist pisses in your blood and gives you powers and makes you kill people and stuff. So crazy idea. What'd you think about that?
I loved this story. Again, I thought great premise. You're building up something really cool. And almost in a direct contrast to the first story, which was about the evil that exists and sort of like I guess the magic that could be just from like murdering people and being soaked in that sort of evil for so long. This was almost like in contrast where he's like, it's all fake. Magic is just what you believe. Haha, see, it wasn't real at all. You just tricked yourself. And I was like, wait. So wait, what? Are you saying like all magic is faked, or just in this particular instance, it's sort of like that series you talked about, Department of Truth, where if you believe it, the conspiracy becomes real, sort of deal,
Yeah, okay. So there's a couple different takes that this specific issue brings up about magic, where this issue is like, oh, it's all about belief and like how hard you believe in something. But I don't feel like John believes in anything. Like, even though he sees magical stuff, I don't feel like he's got strong beliefs about like this will work or whatever. A lot of the time he's unsure if things will work. He's playing by the seat of his pants most of the time. But the I don't know, because like he's definitely fought demons, so like he knows they're all real and stuff, but
he's seen literal angels and demons, he's seen hell. He's seen he's seen so many crazy things, gods and other worlds, and that thing he could do where he could see the other plane with like the colors. He's seen like voodoo. He's been to that other realm where Papa Midnight sent him.
Yeah, he's literally been transported into the hell dimensions and stuff.
In between or whatever it was called. And yet this is such a weird twist of like, but it's all just there if you believe. And like you said, he's not really a believe kind of guy. He believes in himself and his ability to like get out of shit and use whatever tools are necessary to get out of shit. But yeah, he doesn't strike me as the kind of guy who's like, magic only works if you believe, but I can just do magic because I'm John Constantine.
Yeah, everybody else has to believe and it will be so. I mean, he did kind of set that up a little bit in the haunted arc, because like what's his face, Joshua, the bad guy, whatever his name was, the magician that didn't matter, and I forgot his name, Joshua Wright, he believed he was a badass magician or whatever, but then he couldn't even beat the friend that was like the crack magic guy. Like he got scared and ran outside.
Crack magic, like that was real, like that happened. He actually affected that guy. So you're saying that crack magician is just a really good believer?
Maybe crack makes you believe, man. I don't know. Yeah, so like that idea in this issue, I was like, I don't know if that makes sense with what we know about magic in Hellblazer's universe so far. Just going by the last 140 issues. But
yeah, exactly. Great premise. Loved the premise, but the ending was just a big question mark and a kind of like, huh? Wait, what are you trying to say here? There, to me, the answer in this, or the finale to this particular issue, just did not make sense. And it could have been either clearer that maybe it was just this guy's belief, this particular guy, and his crazy belief at having run into a murderer who was pretending to be a victim, like fractured his brain so much that he suddenly believed in this weird ass story about the Antichrist crib and whatnot. So if it's just that, if it's just your belief, like, you yourself, there was no actual magic. You just got so like wound up that you started killing people and you couldn't handle it. So you blamed it on this box you taped to your chest with a dead mouse in it. So if that was the point, then okay, I can see that. Obviously John saw through the bullshit and was like, this isn't real magic. This is just you freaking out. But it's the premise of it seemed to sort of like infer that magic itself wasn't real and it was all based on belief. And that's where I'm like, wait, what? That makes no sense.
It was a little, yeah. The ending of this was where I was like, I'm not sure if I go along with this, but I liked the story idea though. Like you were saying, just the concept of it is fun. And then also a different thing about this issue is John doesn't narrate it and isn't even in the book for like, I don't know, 3/4 of the issue. It's all the writer, the journalist, freaking out, talking about someone trying to kill him and stuff.
That was a little annoying. And then also that happens again later. So it was a thing that I was not enjoying too much. Because if we're talking about John, I get bringing in other people's, points of view and stuff, but this is John's arc. I mean, well, this is John's series, so you should at least have more of him in there, like peeking around, like following the guy, like throw him in the background somewhere. Don't just have him show up for the last 2 pages and just be like, you're an idiot and this was all fake. So see ya.
Yeah, let me get this box off your chest.
Yeah. You got a little shit on your chest, right?
Yeah. Exactly. I liked, like, in concept, I don't mind if people, like, if there's a Spider-Man story and someone's doing something different, where this issue it's about this reporter and then Spider-Man's in the background somewhere. That can be cool sometimes, like, oh, it's a Spider-Man story without Spider-Man. But
yeah, totally.
Yeah, like, I just didn't think the payoff made sense enough for it to, like, it could have been from John's point of view and I would have been fine with that too. It would have made it better possibly, because then he could have explained all this stuff in a different way. Or you could do like back and forth where like he's tracking this journalist, but we think he's tracking he is tracking a serial killer. But then we're going back to the journalist who thinks he's being hunted by a serial killer because John's hunting him. And so, yeah, like there could be a way to do it where it's a bit more John, bit less journalist guy. That's crazy.
Yeah. I mean, so far this to me was like 2 really great stories, but 2 not particularly satisfying endings. So yeah.
Well, Ellis has the good idea. Can't quite pull off the ending, apparently.
Doesn't quite stick the landing.
Yeah. And then we get like 2 stories in one comic. I'm like, he's really trying to fit every idea he's got in this little bit of a run.
It's like, it's not bad enough that a one shot is short. You got to cut 2 stories in half, essentially.
Right. Although I found this first story was one of the most like heavy hitting comics I've ever read. So I was
yes. That one was an actual like banger of a story with a satisfying ending, even though you're not 100% sure what happens at the ending, but you can infer as far as, what you assume John would do. So yeah, I thought that one was actually one with a good ending.
Yeah. And so this first story is about a Japanese guy who is like a war criminal who dies in a room. And then John has to listen to his confession and then torture him in the way that he tortured people in order for the guy's soul to like pass on to wherever the fuck it's going. And yeah, I did not think this was gonna when I first started reading this, I'm like, okay, like what's this about? And then it was like, oh, it's Unit 731. Yay, like this is gonna be super fucked up. And I was actually trying to think, like, is this the first time? I mean, John has referenced like Maggie Thatcher or politics stuff, right? And the royal family or Princess Diana. But like, this is the first time he's ever like had a character that was like, I was like a war criminal and I did these things. And then it was real in real life. Can you think of any other time that happened?
Well, there was the one with the town where the guys came back to life and shot up their own town because they were in.
Also very powerful. Even though
Yeah.
those guys, like what they did wasn't an actual story, at least as far as I know. It was like an amalgamation of things that people had said had happened in Vietnam, right? So you could feel the realness.
Okay, and then there was also the one with the pilot,
Right.
the
Okay.
one where he fell asleep next to the skeleton and had his life's dream.
Yeah, I don't know if that one's real. If I had to guess, I'd say it was like a made up story, but Garth Ennis does like war, so that might have been a real character, like a real guy that died and then they found his plane by the Thames or something.
And then that other guy who was the refugee from Serbia.
Yeah, Bogdan.
Yeah, that was also referencing real events.
Yeah, so but I think because this is like they were referencing real events that have happened in the world, but this was like this is what we did, and it showed exactly what they did at that camp, and I was like, oh my good god, like he's actually not pulling any punches.
Okay, yes, that it was definitely more of the real life shit that actually happened moment. And I honestly had never heard of that. So that was my first
I was gonna ask you, yeah,
yeah, I had never heard of that before and I was quite perturbed by that issue.
yeah.
That's messed up, man. That is some messed up stuff.
I had heard about it, I was aware of it, and then it still messed me up just seeing like a comic that had it in it. I was like, wow, that's fucked up and crazy. I thought this was like the best issue slash half story of this whole like section, just because it was so impactful.
Oh yeah, best half issue for sure. Best
Exactly.
story.
If only we could have got more of that.
Yeah.
But
I mean,
yeah.
not literally more of that. One was good enough to tell that story, but more of that that completed feel of the story. I was good with that, just the one and done on that particular subject.
Exactly, yeah. But do you think? I will say this: so the mix, there's this heavy hitting story, then there's a story about John's past loves. Did you think the mix was crazy and weird, or how did you feel about that in the one issue?
I think they probably put them together to sort of like bring you down from the horror of those atrocities and to pick something so, lighthearted as like he's trying to like just drunkenly reminiscing about his exes who have died, which it could be heavy, but considering what we just, read is actually sort of lighthearted, like, oh, he's just reminiscing about his dead loves. That's actually kind of sweet. This is Valentine's Day 'cause it's a great Valentine's Day story.
Yeah, right. Not the first part though.
No, not the first part. You read that before and then save that other half for Valentine's Day.
Yeah, I was like, holy fuck, when I was reading the first half of it, and then the second half, I was just kind of like, all right, like completely different. It was a come down for sure.
Yeah, very drastic shift in mood. And it had a happy ending, so that's nice.
It did, yeah. I don't know where their souls went. Maybe they went to hell. I don't know.
I think generally, given the direction and the lights and stuff, I would assume they go to somewhere nice.
I think hell's a pretty bright place. It's got fire, right?
I mean, they could also just disintegrate into nothingness. I mean, there's no guarantee that they actually go anywhere.
You become a star. Maybe that was like the heart of a star.
Oh, that's nice too.
There you go. Yeah. So, do you think like when comics use real events as their basis, does it hit harder? Like, does it make the comic more like way impactful?
Oh yeah, and I think even more so if you don't know that it's real. Like I didn't know it was real, and if you hadn't mentioned that it was real, I'd have been like, "Damn, that's some messed up shit. Where'd that come from?" So, if you're of the mind of like, what is this thing? It's obviously referencing something very specific. Is this real? And you look it up and you're like, oh my God, it is real. I think, yeah, that definitely brings some like gravitas and some grounding to the story while also including sort of a John twist to it as well, where he's put in the position of like, being this guy's, savior in a way, like letting him move on. but also having to do something pretty horrific as well that he has to then, be okay with afterwards.
Yeah, and I was wondering about what you would think about John. Do you think John, or I should ask, what do you think about John accepting the man's request, knowing that like he's this like horrible war criminal? I mean, you could think of it like he's accepting like Mengele's request, the guy that like tortured Jews in concentration. It's the same thing. So like, I don't know. I was like, I don't know if John would give a fuck.
Yeah, unless it was like freeing his soul to go to hell, in which case, like, okay, at least you're going somewhere, and I don't want this chick just like suffering by having your ghost there, like bitching about, I deserve to die. Like, somebody just torture me, please. Like, you can't sell an apartment that way. So, part of you wants to kind of just leave him in limbo and leave him unsatisfied. But the other part of you is kind of like, well, maybe he'll go somewhere worse if we can get him out of here.
Yeah. Well, and also like, I was wondering because in the comic, in the story, they make it seem like he's regretful of everything, right? Like he, is trying to repent or something for it because he wrote it all down and he, but I couldn't tell if it was like, that's how he was when he was alive, or if now that he's dead, his ghost is like, please pass on, pass it on or whatever, or let me pass, by doing this stuff. So
that's true.
I couldn't tell. And I don't think it matters in this, for that kind of a thing. I'm like, you could be real sorry, but you killed a bunch of people for no reason. And sorry, like you said, maybe John could put him somewhere else, or like you said, in hell or something. But he does say like, you're going somewhere. He doesn't say you're going like to heaven or something. So, yeah. All right. And then we get the second story, which is the Loves. So, what do you think of that deep dive into John's love history?
Well, we didn't know most of them, right? They were kind of just pulled out of his history, supposedly. And not too many of them have died, really. So obviously they had to make a bunch up. Yeah,
I was going to say, the only ones that we know was Isabel from his first arc, and then what's her name? The one from New York that dies in the Swamp Thing run with Alan Moore.
Oh, right. The one who got thrown out the window.
Yeah, the painter lady.
Yeah. That was a deep cut. I'll give him credit for that. I completely forgot about her.
Yeah, I remember all of John's loves. So.
I remember all of that.
But yeah, like, I mean, he obviously had to make a bunch up. That's why I was like, when did these happen? Because I have to know, like, continuity wise. I'm that guy. I'm like, I can't just accept.
You've got to cross-reference the sources. You got to pull out your reading glasses and flip through all of your your notes. And
there was that one that I was like, well, if this happened in '93, then that's like when Garth Ennis's run was going on, which means Kit was a thing. So I'm like doing the math, like, well, this had to happen after the homelessness, but before he saw Kit. Like, so yeah, like. This was one of those things where we had talked about this in the last arc, but it was like, oh, how do you feel about people like just shoving stuff into history in specific times in the continuity that we didn't see or read about, through the last series. So I don't know. I don't really like it when they throw in stuff in the middle of something that was going on. If it's fine if it's like, oh, it's 1988. Or 1978 or whatever, like throw it in when we weren't aware of what John was doing with his life,
I think it's a ballsy move, and if you can make it work, more power to you. Maybe he was actually seeing this chick, and when Kit showed up again, he was like, oh, no, I'm not with anyone, just kind of shoving the thought off to the side because it's Kit. It's fucking Kit. Yay. Because he was probably not with this girl for very long. So you never know. It could have totally been that he had someone on the side when she, showed back up again. And then she left and he was like, oh, well, back to my side piece. So, which would totally be very John to me.
I don't think John's a cheater, but he's definitely like, oh, I like this girl more. I'll just ditch the other girl. like I had multiple ladies. Yeah.
And then, she was just here to say goodbye. Then, well, hey, honey, like, how's it going? Yeah, I missed you. Sorry for ghosting you.
Definitely, I could see that. So.
I was busy with work.
Yeah. My magic work.
Exactly.
One thing that I know you weren't a big fan of the Haunted story arc, And Isabel was in this, so did you have any issues like him referencing that, or did it make it better because it's like, okay, he's tying things together?
Yeah, I like that he was tying it together. I felt like it gave it a bit more feeling to it. You know, she's not just some nameless woman who was murdered, and we don't really find out much more about her, just in general. But it was nice for him to at least have a callback to his own character that he created. So I thought it was fine, and at least she's now she's in the same level as all these other girls we didn't know either. So we knew more about her than we did anybody else. I mean, except for the one you said who's from way back. So
except whatever her name is, I can't remember off the top of my head.
Yeah,
but yeah, the girl from
but
New York.
know who she is. You know her, and that's what's important.
Exactly. Emma, that's her name, Emma.
Yay!
I wanted to say Gemma, and I was like, no, that's his niece. So out of all these stories of like past loves that he had, did you have a favorite?
Not really. I mostly just like the fact that he did a reference to that Emma from way back. I thought that was pretty cool to include her. But otherwise, I was like, oh, that's kind of sad, but also kind of sweet. And I guess him reminiscing about them was strong enough to pull their ghosts together and release them, which is weird because I thought he already did that for Isabel. So I don't know if that was just sort of a metaphorical releasing.
I think that's what I think he was letting them go.
Okay, so yeah, so then it wasn't really their souls disappearing for the most part, because I would assume if Isabel had already moved on, it was more of just like the memories of them, and because he's magic, he can kind of just sort of like materialize these thoughts in a way.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking, is because there's that one that was like, she's not dead, or she's dead, but she's not dead. The one that had AIDS, that she doesn't have AIDS anymore, and her husband is over 100 years old. I'm assuming they were saying that she's a vampire or something like that.
Oh, I didn't catch that. Nice.
But so she technically died.
But she's undead. Or an immortal.
Yeah, and he manifested her as well. So I was like, well, she's not a ghost then. So I don't know. But yeah, I think it was all just like kind of memories that he was either literally manifesting as like, apparitions or like and orbs when they passed, when he was done talking about them, or they were on their own. He was seeing them and then they came together. But I think it makes more sense that he was drunk, he was talking to them or talking about them or thinking about them in his head, and they came out physically as like these wispy beings as he's thinking about them. So that's how I took it. I think that makes sense too. Like, and then at the end, it was just like, okay, I guess he's letting them go. Like he's moving on.
I release you. You're no longer going to be in my thoughts, and no one will ever make a story about you because no one's going to remember you after this.
Okay, so that was like the end of that two-parter. Really heavy beginning, really sentimental end. Then we get possibly my favorite issue of the Warren Ellis run. I'm pretty sure it is. Besides the full issue, I'll say. Obviously I liked the Japanese guy story, but that was only half of an issue. So issue 143 is something I really like, where it's just John fucking with people. and John is messing with this reporter who is like a conspiracy theorist guy, and John is just egging him on. He's giving him every kind of conspiracy theory you could possibly believe, and just upping the ante with every time he opens his mouth. It's a net like, oh, you think that's bad? Well, you should have heard about this, and you should, these people. So what did you think about this story? And did you like the whole conspiracy thing?
Oh yeah, I love this story. This story was a lot of fun. And I will say that I was completely like in the same boat as that guy, where I'm just like, given what I know about this world and the things that have happened, I was fully on board with like, that all sounds plausible to me. Like I'd totally be with that guy. Like, really? That's true too. Oh my God. Oh, what else? Oh, no way. Like I was like, yeah, totally. I could see that happening. 100% plausible in this world.
There's a point where it's like, we've seen enough in Hellblazer to be like, that probably does happen. But then there's a point where you can tell that John starts, what would it be? Exaggerating everything.
I mean, he was already exaggerating, so he's just like going even beyond that at some point. You mean just like you going way overboard?
Just seeing what this guy will believe. I mean, he's going through aliens and reptilians and all this stuff. The Princess Diana thing, where it's like she's hounded by these reporters who are also.
Oh man, that was messed up.
Yeah, I was like, Jesus. So yeah, I and the thing was that was pretty recent when that came out. So I think that would have been pretty like not sacrilegious, but like,
Oh dang, I didn't even think of that. Holy shit.
yeah, because she died in 96, I think, something like that. And
One of those like too soon.
yeah, right. I think this is from 99 or something. Like, so it's pretty close to that. And I know that like still British people are like, that was horrible. I mean, my only reference for that is like the British Office, when they were talking about her, and like he like wrote that song about her and stuff. So I'm like, apparently they really, really cared about her as a people, and so, or at least generally. And so,
Yeah.
so yeah, I think, you know, this was kind of like taking the piss out of that as well, with the whole royal family in general, but that whole incident. But yeah, I liked this a lot. I thought this was like prime John. And if this was how Warren Ellis was going to write him and like wanted him to be, I was like, yes, this is the one I want. Like, this is the John that I need more of, where he's just fucking with people, having a good time. And, you know, in between like some of the bigger things that could happen, you know, but I liked this story a lot. And this would have been like a perfect one shot in between like the haunted arc. And then if there was another arc, and then you'd have this one shot, you know, like he could have put these one shots or two shots in, you know, smattered throughout the run if he had a long run. But
Oh yeah, I think it would have been great. It was a fun little aside, a fun little way for John to just sort of like mess with this guy and throw him completely off the trail and scare him so that hopefully he would just, you know, stop trying to mess around and do his investigating.
yeah, I like how he just fakes his death at the end. He's like, I got killed.
And hurt himself getting out there.
Yeah. Did you have a favorite conspiracy?
Oh shoot. Favorite conspiracy. Dang. I think when you got to the part about the tunnels that connect to like the States and like all over the world, and London is the hub, that cracked me up.
Yeah, I think that's funny. Like, of course, if you're British or whatever, London is going to be the hub, or England is going to be the hub of like all the world's epicenter. And it's like just the same as like when people are like, wherever I'm at, that is where the most important things are happening.
Well, I do love London, and London is a crazy city. So of all of that stuff, that's the one I would most believe, that somehow with London being as old and as established as it is, that there was some sort of network that allowed them to sort of like sneak over to other countries and do shit. So that one was my favorite by far.
I liked that issue a lot. I thought that was probably the best one out of all of them for like a full issue.
Which one was your favorite?
My favorite conspiracy was and it was just because the way it was drawn, but like where like the snake, like the queen as a snake and the princess as a snake or whatever, and they're fighting, and then they like grab the child's soul out of his body with their, it's like, what the fuck is going on? Like, I just thought that was well drawn. It was, and like it was very well illustrated. The other ones were kind of like one panel, like he'd say it and then you'd see a panel, and then he moved to the next crazy thing. But this was like, that one was, I think, the first one he talked about that was like the most far-fetched at that point, and they gave it like 3 pages, I think, or something. So I was like, oh wow, that's a crazy, for the reporter to believe it is crazy. And then I love at the end when he's like John's like, so yeah, all this stuff, and then the reporter's like, so you're telling me that this, and this, and he's like, yeah, and then the reporter's like, okay, I'm in. Like when you think he's gonna like be like, you're out of your mind.
Yeah, that was a good moment. That was a good sort of like, he's not gonna buy this, is he? And then he totally does. So that was great.
Yeah, I thought it was really fun. So then we get the 2-parter that is like, doesn't feel like Warren Ellis, possibly it was a story plot that he had come up with, but he didn't write the second issue of the two stories or the two issues. So issues 144 and 145 is about the Serbian conflict in the 90s. We already kind of touched that with the Paul Jenkins run with the friend Bogdan. I'm pretty sure that's his name. Something like that. I can't remember what his nickname was. They kept calling him like, Bog the dog or something. I can't remember what his nickname was, but
Oh, yeah, I can't remember either.
yeah. But yeah, so so we've already kind of had this theme before, this topic. And I think it was done way better in that, even though we didn't particularly love that version either. But yeah, this was the most confusing thing ever because of the art. And I don't know, were you confused at all?
I think I was able to keep up with it. You did a really good job of explaining sort of like panels and dialogue and saying like, I think this is the past, I think this is the present. And, I feel like you figured it out enough to sort of give us the general feel of the story and how things are moving forward. So I don't think I was confused. I mean, someday if I ever get my collection and I can read all these myself, I might, try to see if reading it,
you're going to be confused.
Is any better or worse? If you say so, probably worse. So I'll probably have to listen as I'm reading so you can keep me straight on the story.
All I know is I had to read this thing like 4 times. I was like, what is going on and what time period are we at now? Because it kept jumping between like John with the dog and then John at night and then the next day potentially, but we don't know because they didn't say, but they're wearing the same clothes. So, and it actually was further like days forward because it was like the grandpa's funeral. So it was like, it had to be a couple days later or whatever. Yeah, like it was just all over the place. And I had to write notes down like, okay, this page is the past. like, so that way I could keep it straight for you guys. So I'm glad I was able to keep it somewhat on track for you guys listening. But yeah, so in general, what did you think of this story since you weren't confused? I don't know if I was like, I wonder if my hatred of the story is, or my dislike of the story is because I had to like deal with so much confusion. Since you weren't really confused, you were able to keep track of it. What did you think of it as a whole?
Well, this is another one where John sort of just shows up a little bit, but he's not really the point of the story. He's just kind of there to be sort of a side character to what's actually happening, like the other one shot where he just kind of shows up at the end with the reporter / serial killer. No, journalist. And what was he again?
He's a journalist / serial killer.
Okay, yeah, journalist / serial killer. So this was another one where it's not so much about John, it's about these other people, and John's just kind of there randomly. So just that in general makes me sort of like not care for the story as much because I'm like, I'm reading this to find out what John's up to. What's he doing in his life? How is he messing with people? How is he sometimes helping people? What's going on? And instead it's sort of like John's like, I guess I'm just here to hear this story, hear what these people have been through and be all like, wow, that sucks. Anyway, so yeah, it didn't have, I guess, it was very sad, obviously, the things that these people went through. And like you said, it references real world things, and that's terrible. That's really sad. But I guess it just didn't have the same, I don't know, it just doesn't have that same punch to it because it was spread over 2 stories, and that to me made it feel a lot thinner. There was a lot of in between of just, the kids, and I don't know, it didn't have quite the same feel to it. Like I didn't feel as much about this story as I did with, say, like the one with the guy, the ghost who was stuck in the bed,
Yeah, this one I think it's because of the way it's structured. Because it's like, we don't know what's going on and we're just kind of thrown into John taking this dead dog for a walk. Although we don't know the dog's dead until like, I don't know, 10 pages in or whatever. And then like we're following him, follow this kid who can bring people back from the dead, but the grandpa is, like we don't know who any of these people are. The setup was really weak in my opinion. And then we don't really know why we should care about them, because we don't know that maybe they're Serbian or they're immigrants or something. But only in the second issue do we find out, oh, they're like, it's because of this like war-torn stuff from Serbia. I was like, okay. So I feel like they should have kind of maybe reversed the issues, like had the war stuff happen at the beginning, then you have like context for who these people are, and then, John shows up or whatever, or pepper in, like split it up so you see the war stuff, maybe them coming over, then John and the dog. Then you have context for, okay, these people are from this area. It was war torn. Maybe we knew the grandpa was a, magician or whatever. But yeah, I always thought like the story for the grandpa was weird too. Like he's a bee keeper who can sick bees on. He's like Candyman or something. And then,
but he's also got magic and the ability to heal people or curse people, or it was really all over the place. And I think you're right. I think if they had sort of like started it with the story of the mom trying to get this potato, and then, because that was the punch of the story. That was the only part where I was like, dang, that is harsh. Like that, if you had led with that and then sort of transitioned into there's a funeral, like who's the funeral for? The grandpa. And then the kid being like, my grandpa's name was, and then, then jumping back to like following the dog to the kid doing magic. And then you'd be like, oh, the kid inherited his grandpa's abilities, because we would know that the grandpa can do stuff with bees and, all that stuff. And then be like, oh, this kid's obviously like going in way too deep for, what he can handle. And then the grandpa shows up. So then we'd be like, oh, shoot, the grandpa can probably help him. But then obviously the grandpa dies. And then you're like, oh, man, like we just knew all this backstory about the grandpa. And we kind of like felt like he would be able to handle this. You're like, oh, you're strong. You've got your magic. So, I think if they sort of switched around the narrative a bit, it would have had more of a punch. But as it was, as you described it, as it was laid out, it felt kind of all over the place, and it didn't hit in the right places.
Yeah, I know there's a story in there somewhere. I just am not feeling the way they put it together on these two issues. And like I said, also you heard the not confused version, or as much as I could make it, whereas I had to read it and I'm like, what the fuck is going on? And then like I had to read it again and then take notes and then all this stuff. So if you have to do that for a comic to understand it, either you're not paying attention, or when I was paying attention, so or something was you didn't do your job as a writer and like to make it easily followable for a reader. Poorly structured is what I would say with those two issues. So yeah, I really didn't like them, but then I can't, like I said, I don't know. Warren Ellis's name was on the first one, but not the second one. So I'm like, was it just him going like, I wanted to do something about a Serbian family and some magic and go with it, Marco, or what? No, I don't remember what his name is. Darko is his last name, I think. I don't know. Whatever. The writer that was writing it.
Yeah. Did he provide an outline? Did he provide a summary? Did he just throw an idea against the wall and was like, you guys figure out how to make it work? Where he's like, I want the grandpa to be this. I want the kid this. And then here's what happens to the mom. And they had to sort of put it together in a mishmash. We don't really know the percentages of what was Ellis and what was Darko, right? So
yeah, no.
Yeah, there's no way to really know.
I can only assume that it was like less Ellis because he's only on the first issue and it's a 2-issue arc. So that to me would mean the idea was his, like, oh, I'm thinking of doing this story and then, but I'm not going to. So here you go, friend of mine or whatever. And then run with it,
Yeah, that was really too bad because it could have been a really good story. It just wasn't executed well.
Yeah. And then after that, I added this because I looked at I had heard this next story called Shoot was a story I had heard about, in the ether. It's kind of like, I don't know if you have ever heard of like in the rumor mills and comic book stuff in circles where they're like, oh, that's cool, but have you ever read this? It's never been printed before, like never been reprinted. You can't get copies of it. Good luck trying to find it. You know, I don't know if you're the kind of person that is in that gets like super excited when you hear those kinds of things. But this was one of those stories that I had heard about where it was like, oh, Warren Ellis wrote this crazy story right before Columbine. Then it was supposed to come out right after Columbine, and they had to pull it. And so it never got reprinted. And then in 2011, they reprinted this story. And so I was like, well, I have to include it because it was supposed to be part of his run. And I think it's collected in the trades now. If you buy the trades, it's included in his run, not in the spot that it should be, but it's probably at the end like I did. But yeah, another one of that was Miracle Man, that comic. For a long time, they were like, it's out of print. It's never going to be reprinted. Everybody would say it's like the best comic ever. And then it finally got reprinted and I read it and I was like, they were right. It was very good. So I was very happy that this comic kind of lived up to the build up, you know, the anticipation that everybody was talking about it for so long. I assume you hadn't heard any of that. Is that correct?
I actually had never heard about this issue. And when I hadn't really heard about Hellblazer in general. So there's no way I would have known about an issue that was like removed and had a sacred feel to it. I was very much an isolationist when I was collecting comics. I had no friends who, when I was very young, I had no friends who were also collecting comics. So if I didn't literally see it, I didn't go searching for stuff. So it was just like, oh, comics, and just collected and didn't really look far into back issues or taboo issues or anything like that. But I will say, probably don't feel quite as awed by it as you do. I was a little bit like, oh, okay, that was all right.
Yeah, I get that. I will say this: the first time I read it, because we actually did this on our podcast. I don't remember what it was for. On the Planes, Trains, and Comic Books podcast, we did it. We covered it for something. I can't remember what. And I read it, and I was like, yeah, that's fine. But I think that was just because I read it for that podcast, which is just us talking about it, kind of like this one. But the fact that I read it for the Hellblazer podcast made it more impactful. Like, I think because I had to read the last monologue and everything of him, I don't know. It really made me like think about everything that he was talking about. And I was like, oh shit, like this is really heavy and good.
I mean, I don't deny that including the like real transcripts, I guess, of the
Jonestown stuff.
Jonestown, thank you. Name escaped me. Jonestown incident was definitely heavy, like definitely heavy. And the fact that it's about school shootings, that subject, I could totally see why they pulled it at the time, because they're just like, oh no, like we can't have this in any way, shape, or form, like coming out after this tragedy. So I totally get that. Very heavy subject, definitely disturbing parts to it. To me, it was again, it was a good premise, but the ending to me was just...
So John comes in a quarter of the way through, or 3/4 of the way through.
Yeah, I mean that, and then just the overall premise of like, it's just kids who have been, I guess, tired of how things are going, and they're just like, kill me. I just don't care.
I don't know if it's tired. I think it's they feel like there's no future for them at all. So why live?
Which is horrible, but then what does John have to do with anything? There was nothing magic about it. There was nothing supernatural about it. It was just the idea that these kids are so disillusioned with their lives that they're like, both, I guess, the killers and the victims, because they're like, he's saying that none of them ran away, right?
Yes.
None of them tried to flee. None of them were like, no, don't. So he's boiling down and the fact that he's not an American is obviously very clear here too. He's boiling this down to just kids are so disillusioned with their futures that they're willing to kill other kids who are also so disillusioned with their futures that they don't care that they're dying. And they were like, please, yes, just kill me. And then the kids kill themselves. To me, that sort of boils down a really complex issue to something so simplistic that was, I don't know, mind boggling how he could come to this conclusion and think that this had anything to do with both Hellblazer, John, and American politics, I guess,
you.
you know,
Okay.
like, or American thinking. So I was like, I was expecting something a bit more with the ending than just future disillusionment, you know?
Well, I will say this as well is when this was written, Columbine was the only one that had happened. And so I don't know if now we are used to it or something, you know? It's more commonplace.
Well, not even that, but it was more of just the fact that to him, either he didn't see any of the footage, because I'm pretty darn sure that a lot of those kids were crying, were begging, and not to mention the killers themselves were like, "Do you believe in God or not?" And
Oh,
then
you're
they were
talking
shooting
about
people,
Columbine
right?
itself. Yeah.
Yeah, because if his only reference to writing this was just Columbine.
No, he wrote this before Columbine.
Oh,
That's what I'm
okay.
saying. Like that hadn't even happened yet when he wrote this.
Oh, I think I misheard you. I thought he wrote it like right after, like he'd seen that, and then he wrote this, and then they refused to let him put it out. Oh, okay, my bad.
No, he had come up with this story on his own. And then when he went, you know, it was going to be printed and put on the stands the week before that happened, Columbine happened. And so like the week before, like whatever it was, a couple weeks before it was supposed to hit the stands, because the comics are written like 3 months ahead usually. So he wrote this months before Columbine happened. And then Columbine happened and they pulled it. So yeah, that's the event. The order of events is he was maybe anticipating this happening, I guess, in a different way.
I get okay. So I misunderstood the timeline. That's my bad. But I still think his idea of the why behind it, and one including John in this for some reason, and two including the Jonestown stuff in this for some reason. I didn't even get the connection between that, because it seemed to me there was no connection to this horrible thing happened and these horrible things are happening.
I think the idea, the tie between them is, why would those people completely follow this guy into South America and give up all their lives and then drink poison? It's because they have nothing to live for either. And that was during this time in the, you know, 80s or whatever, when all this shit was happening. So we're like it's our culture that is causing this. I think John got called in because his friend thought it was something magical or whatever, right? Like the guy that was like, hey, my kid was killed at the school. Something must be going on, because look at the kids. They're not even scared. So it must be like a spell or something. I assume that he didn't say that specifically, but that's what I got from it. Like just inferring.
Also, how did they get all the footage of those kids, like as the shootings were happening, like outside schools or in schools? Like, because she's looking at all these videos of all these moments as they exactly happened. How were they filmed?
So the way the first one that was shown was like the mom filming like her son's whatever day through the car. So it's like, bye,
I must
honey.
have missed that too. I thought it was just she was saying goodbye. I didn't realize she was recording him. Oh man, I missed that too.
Okay. Yeah. So maybe I didn't say it good enough, or maybe I missed that too, because what happens is we see that as a panel before we know that it's a video that the lady's watching. So I might have just described it as this is what's happening in the panel, but then I forgot to mention, and then we pull out from a screen and this lady's watching it on screen.
I mean, I got that she was watching the video of this moment as it happened. I just didn't make the connection of how are all of these moments recorded at those exact moments, because she's watching so many tapes of so many shootings. How did she
I think there's that one is the videotape, and then the other ones are either a lot of them are the aftermath. So it's like the reporters.
Oh, okay. So there was only the one that was of that exact moment, and all the rest of them were just aftermath shots. or aftermath news things. Okay. For some reason, I thought she was watching videos of that exact same moment happening to all these kids. And I was like, how on earth is someone recording all these moments at the exact time that they're happening?
No, I think that was the only one that caught it directly as it was happening, because it was like her son that gets shot. And then in the reporters or the news footage of it, it's all like people in the crowds standing around the dead bodies that are being taken by police. And John is always in those shots. And that's why she's like, oh, who's this guy at every one of these crime scenes?
And he still has his magic power, is the ability to jump between places from the shadows, because that's how he's getting all over the world. Or all over America, I guess, all these different places. It also, it had sort of a Silence of the Lambs feel to it, when she's like studying the tapes, as if she's trying to study the serial killer, or like how the event is happening. It definitely gave me Silence of the Lambs feels of her in the basement watching these videos, listening to the recordings and stuff. So that was a cool like way to give us the information, because she's trying to go through it. So there were moments of this that I thought were really good, but again, I just thought that the payoff to me, the fact that it wasn't something supernatural, and he's just trying to say that it's a disillusionment of the youth / just Americans in general. I don't know. It just made it seem like it's one answer, when obviously there's many answers to this problem.
But then he wasn't writing about this problem. Like, if you look at it from, I came up with a story about kids who are disillusioned, and part of that is them killing each other at schools and playgrounds and stuff or whatever. Then he was telling a story about disillusionment, not about school shootings.
Okay.
And school shootings happened, and then he was like, fuck. So.
Okay. I'll give you that. Again, I always forget about the context of when this was supposed to take place. And I'm thinking of it as like I'm reading it now and applying today's sort of feel to it. So I'll grant you that I have a bias of it being post many, 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 many school shootings, which is horrible to say, fucking horrible to say. So, okay. Pulling back to its context of a insane amount of school shootings happening, with the myriad of reasons and problems and all the baggage connected to that. Okay. I can see how this is a really messed up, groundbreaking story.
Yeah. I convinced you. Yeah.
Yes. Okay. You convinced me that this was definitely more than the lens I was seeing it through. Yes.
I could definitely see your side, though. If you thought that it was after Columbine and that's his take on it, it'd be like, that's not the thing that they should be focusing on in this story.
Right.
Yeah. But the story wasn't a story until...
Now that I know that, now that I have the full facts and the full information, I can agree. Yes. Okay. This story is definitely a lot harder and a lot deeper and a lot worse than I thought it was.
I think it does warrant a like second or third reading, once you kind of know the context, because that's how I felt the first time too. I was like, I don't get why, like, this is just a weird issue when I read it with John on Planes, Trains, and Comic Books podcast. And then I think because I had to look a lot of stuff up about it before, because, usually this kind of stuff, I'm like, okay, it was printed in 2011. When was it printed, before that? And it was like, oh, it was 1998 or whatever was when it was written. And I'm like, okay, so Columbine happened in 99, so this is before that happened. All of that, I had then got context to what it was. And I think that's why this time, and especially reading the words aloud, and you might have been able to tell, I got really into the last monologue as John. But I was like, I was trying to like put all the emotion in it, because he, I think there is a message there. Obviously, the message is overshadowed by the actual school shootings, but the message of like when the youth are disillusioned and feel like they have no future, expect things like this to happen. Weird occurrences like people going to the jungle and then drinking cyanide and that kind of stuff. That is how that happens when people don't have any hope for a future at all, you know? And that was what he was trying to put forward, not school shootings are, are a thing. He probably thought, man, this is like a crazy idea that I'm coming up with, you know, it's so edgy or whatever.
As crazy as all the other stuff he's come up with, that's just beyond the scope of reality.
Yes, yeah. And then it happened and he's like, oh, fuck. But, you know. And I will say, I do feel like some of that, at least some of the stuff, some of the shootings that have happened definitely could fall under the apathy, I hate my life and I feel no hope. And what's the point? You know, things that happen. Some of them could be from that. Columbine itself had definite other things going on, but
no, I agree. Definitely. From like a shooter's perspective. Yeah, there's a lot of unhappiness and a lot of like, fuck this life, you know, feeling behind it. I could definitely see that as far as what he was trying to address with those emotions specifically. I can see why he focused on that because yeah, once you're hopeless, like what matters? Nothing.
Yeah, so I'm glad. I mean, I wasn't trying to like convince you, but I was like, like, no, this is the context.
I did not have all the facts and all of the information to make a clear assessment of this issue. So now that I have them and I have a broader scope of the background of it and the time of it, and yeah, just the general idea of it. No, I can see why it was pulled, one, and also why it has more meaning than I was willing to give it at the time. So thank you for enlightening me.
Well, now that you know that, are you glad that it was reprinted eventually? Because it was just sitting in, you know, in the file cabinet somewhere collecting dust. So.
Yes. Although I do worry that, like me, people will simply pick it up and give it that sort of maybe not blasé attitude, but that sort of like, oh, why is this so important? If they don't have all of that, you know, it should come with a history lesson. It should come with some side notes and a bit of explanation.
Yeah, I'll do a blog just on this.
There you go. The people need to know. They need to understand.
Well, I mean, they could always listen to this podcast too, and
that's true. And it'll take them through the whole feelings of someone who was like, it's all right to, oh, I see.
There you go. I'm glad. Yeah, I'm glad you had an effect on you after the fact, and you see it now.
I mean, yeah, that's the best you can hope for is to fully understand something if you don't quite have all the pieces to the puzzle.
Yeah, and that's one of the things with like stuff that was written a long time ago. If you don't know, like it's kind of like, you know, when you hear jazz from the 40s, you're like, oh, that's like old people music. But then at the time it was like groundbreaking and amazing and like led to all these other things that you now take for granted in music. So like if you don't know why it was groundbreaking or what the time period was and what had happened around the time and before it, it's kind of like, yeah, you just don't know. And it just doesn't hit the same way. Context creates a lot of, you need it for some things.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's why I was like, I tried to give context in the episode.
But there's only so much you can do without it turning into a lecture. Yeah,
exactly. So I'm like, here's, I'm giving a little bit of this, a little bit of that. But I think by the time I was reading it for the podcast, I was like doing the podcast and reading it aloud. I had got that, which is why I was like, the end monologue is so like impactful. Although I will say, I didn't even think about this, but like you said, it's not supernatural at all. Why is John even here? Like there are definite problems with it that I didn't think about because it was so like impactful to me. It's not a perfect issue, but there's I think it's, we're definitely worth reading, especially if you have the context of things. So
yeah, it's definitely a story he wanted to tell and found a way to make it work in the universe he happened to be in.
Yeah, and like you said, hey, he didn't get to write more, but what if he was trying to like put in that John has powers where he can just like go through shadows and appear, and then like this is all part of that. And we're like, how did he get to America and all these other spots so fast? And then it's like, oh, we just never knew he was going to reveal that John has new powers in the next arc or whatever that he didn't get to do.
Yeah, either that or whoever the friend that asked him to look into this is really rich and was able to fly him all over the country and, to the States in general.
Private jets everywhere.
But his kid goes to some random grade school or something.
He took the Concorde back then. Yeah, so anyway, final thoughts. Did you notice any common themes with these one-shots? I mean, we already said like John appearing from the shadows and like Hello Squire.
And randomly showing up at the end sometimes.
Well, the one I was thinking of is all of these are like they take place in one room, and it's just John and another person.
Okay, yeah. I mean, okay. That was also very... Because even that even shoot, he only confronts her in the room as well, where she's working.
There could be other areas, but generally we're in like one spot with John. He doesn't, as opposed to Haunted, which was all over London with John.
Right.
This is like every issue is, even the one where it's like the one the one he just plotted, it's like him in the park talking. And then he's like remembering the night before, but it's still like just him at the park talking to this kid. And yeah, like everywhere where John is just him not moving, which I was like, I didn't put that together until I was coming up with these questions. And then I was like, that's weird. That's interesting. I don't know if he just thinks like that should be a motif John has, where it's like, I appear from the shadows, I say hello, Squire, and the whole story will take place in a room.
Yeah, that's a little weird. I wonder if a longer arc after this would have also been sort of a one-room story, or if he would have been more like Haunted and gone all over the place.
Yeah, because he could pepper these one-shots in, and then they don't feel as like, oh, every one of these is in a room, so.
Oh, maybe, because it's a one-shot. He thinks it should be in one room.
That's true too. And also for one shots, it really makes it easier to write if you don't have to go back and forth to a bunch of places and stuff. Because you only have so much pages.
Yeah. Well, I mean, in your memories, obviously, because there's a lot of it is memories of somebody doing something, but the physically they don't go anywhere. So they can go anywhere they want in their minds and their memories, or I guess when he's walking around town with his dead girlfriend's memories following him.
That's the only one that wasn't quite, but it was still like in one park.
Yeah, it was still him just walking. So He wasn't like really interacting with other people or going anywhere in particular. He was just kind of walking to a church.
I will say these would probably be hard to draw for an artist, only because it's like, so he's standing in the room. And he's still standing in the room as he says this next thing. And he's still standing in the room as he says this next thing. So like the artist having to come up with, okay, how are we going to...
dramatic poses and different angles of the room and the people in it.
Exactly. So that's Fun. A challenge for an artist.
Do you think the artist pulled it off then to make these stories engaging despite their John in the shadows, hello, Squire, one room feeling?
I'm going to say they did. Because you didn't notice it, and I didn't notice it until I wrote these questions, and you didn't notice it at all. So
yeah,
that tells me that it did a good job of not making that it's in one room obvious.
Nice.
Here's the big question: you did not like the first half of Ellis's run. Did you like the second half better or worse?
I liked it a bit better, but I think there was still too many great premises, not quite satisfactory endings to these stories. So if he had had more time, and whether it was by his choice or someone else's choice or a conflict of schedules or whatnot that did not allow him to completely have more time on Hellblazer itself, for whatever reason, this is all we have. I have to say it's probably my least favorite.
The run as a total, or the second?
As a total. Like if I have to compare it to every other, arc that has happened,
hands down.
Yeah, it's probably my least favorite, which is sad because there's some really great stories here. But ultimately, what does it bring to Hellblazer as a whole? Not much, Like you take it out, and what do you lose in the story overall? If I had to have only a certain amount of trades on my shelf, and it was like choose between this one and any other arc so far, I'd be like, well, I kind of want to choose every other arc instead, right?
Yeah, I get that. I fully have a similar feeling. I had never read these until I did it for the podcast. So especially the first story arc, I was like, well, that's kind of a weak start. But I did like, even though like you said, the endings are not as strong as they could be, and some of the stuff doesn't quite make sense. But I liked that he was really going for it with the concepts of these one shots.
Oh, absolutely. He definitely brought something new to the table. He brought some really great ideas to the Hellblazer universe. And like you said, it was enough of an impact for at least one character to have life again in a later arc. So is it like completely, push it aside? I don't think so. I think it's still worth exploring. But as far as the strength of every other arc before it's unfortunately, if I have to rank them, at the bottom.
Yeah, I mean, how are you going to compare this to Jamie Delano, Garth Ennis, and Paul Jenkins? You can't. I mean, you're forgetting Eddie Campbell's little mini arc where he set it up in Australia.
Oh, well, see, even that was fun.
Yeah, okay. So
and that still gave us things that were used later. So
yeah, like all of Jenkins' run uses his stuff. So
right. So it was very impactful. This, not as impactful, but still a lot of fun. Still a great little romp, and definitely some hard-hitting stories. So it's in no way like weak or anything. I don't think it has really great ideas, but it's still not. It's like comparing something that's like a painting that's unfinished to masterpieces, right? Like you can see the bones there, you could see where it was gonna go, but you still can't say that it's on par with something that's complete and finished.
Right. Yeah. Very true. Yeah, I do think like this is, especially if you're like interested, if you've read other arcs, like all full runs of stuff, and like you never got around to the Warren Ellis one, definitely check this one out. I would definitely not start someone with this run. I would not be like, yeah, pick up the Warren Ellis run. You'll love it.
No. I mean, unless you want to say like one really hard hitting story in it, just to give you an idea of like the kind of craziness that can happen, I'd say the Serial Killer Room one was really cool. So
yeah, Serial Killer Room or reporter journalist, conspiracy
or
theory
reporter
one.
journalist, because that gives you a really feel for how much of an asshole John is too. So and sort of likes to dick around with people. So definitely individual stories. I would say, hey, check these out. Do you like the feel of this? Well, jump all the way back to the beginning, or in one of these other really classic arcs, and jump in from there, because these are some really great stories. So yeah, if you wanted to just give someone a taste of the craziness, you could totally pick one of these one shots out. But starting from Haunted, probably not the best idea.
Well, that being said, you had your favorite issue. I think we already said it. For me, was mine was a conspiracy one. Was that your favorite issue out of all these two?
Yeah, I think the conspiracy one is still the most fun out of all of them. I mean, you can't say that the heavy hitting ones, the one with the Japanese guy or Shoot, aren't intense and amazing in their own way. But that one, I think, has the most Hellblazer feel to it.
Yes, it has the fun of Hellblazer.
Yes, the fun, the craziness, a really good ending to it too, where you're just like, oh, John, you got us.
Yeah, the only thing I didn't like about that one was when he gets in the car after he pretends he got shot, and he's with Chaz, and then he's like, he does the whole like. Luckily, I bought that gun sound maker like yesterday or whatever. I'm like, what? What's a gun sound maker? Like, you could have just clapped really loud or something, Like, I thought it was. I'm like, what is that device that you're talking about? Where he said like he faked the gunshot.
Oh.
I was like, he had a machine that fakes gunshots, like some sort of speaker device, I guess. I don't know, but it's not like a real thing. So I don't know if that was just like, yeah, these exist, right? Or he just made it up because he thought it was funny to say that or something. I don't know. But that was the only thing I was like, I don't know about that.
It's magic.
So, yeah, it's magic. That's what I would have said. I would have just conjured up a fucking sound if I have magic, right? So
yeah, so he used magic to conjure up a gun making sound device.
instead of the gun sound itself. Yeah. Yeah. So any other things I missed?
I can't really think of anything, but did you have a favorite cover this time? There's not too many to choose from.
Yeah, none of them really stand out as far as like, because it's all like just John in a room or in a church or in a thing where you're like they don't really stand out themselves. But the only one that does is Shoot. The cover for Shoot, which starts the motif that that continues in the next Azzarello run as well for the covers, which is 3 horizontal panels. And I think that's like,
Oh, that's cool.
yeah, like I guess he did it for Shoot, and then maybe because I don't think the cover was done by then. Maybe I'm wrong. Actually, no, it would have had to been done. So maybe he was going to start that motif and then changed or something. But either way, it's in line with what happens in the first Azzarello arc as far as the covers. There's 3 horizontal panels in the first arc on every cover. So, but the Shoot one with the kid, the gun, and John is just like, this is what this book is about. Like, this is, and it's also kind of mysterious because you're like, does the kid shoot John? Does John shoot the kid? Like what's going to happen in this book? We don't know. So I think that's the best cover out of all of his covers in this section.
I like the crib. I think it's the most striking because it's got a real like Dante's Inferno sort of feel. Like these bodies are just like all around him, and he's kind of looking like either he's got a face like he's either I'm just sick of this. Like I don't even know like what to do at this point, or he's almost looking sort of mysteriously like, did he put these bodies here? Is this like part of a magic trick? So I think that one's very intriguing. Just because you don't know what put him in this situation, where the bodies are from, like what the context is for that. And it's got such a really good creepy feel to it. So that one's my favorite.
Nice. Well, the Warren Ellis run is done, and we're moving on to Brian Azzarello's run next, which starts off with Vertigo Secret Files. Technically, I don't know if that actually would be considered the beginning of it, but that's what I did. I called it the beginning of the run because it's the first story that Brian Azzarello wrote for John is in that, and then he does the rest of the run.
Nice. We
will read that Vertigo Secret Files, and then the first, I think it's six or 5. I think it's 5. So it's 6 issues total of the first arc of Brian Azzarello's run, which I'm very excited to see what you have to say about that, considering the thoughts you had on Warren Ellis's run. Azzarello's run, just in general, is considered contentious by Hellblazer fans.
Oh, controversy, you say?
Some people love it. Some people absolutely hate it. I will not say which side I am on in that.
Okay.
And I will go
intrigued.
Through it without mentioning any of that. And we'll talk about the whole run at the end of it. But yeah, but the first 6 issues, I'm excited because it's an interesting story. It's the first Hellblazer story I read ever.
Oh, really? Wow, you started way in the middle, huh?
Yeah, I was like, oh, I want to read Hellblazer. Where should I start? And the guy said, anywhere you want. Pick like the first book of a writer that you like, arc, and then read it. So I was like, oh, I like Brian Azzarello, so let me read that first arc. So this was the first arc I ever read of Hellblazer, the Brian Azzarello Hard Time arc, and I was intrigued. I thought this was a pretty interesting story when I first read it, and I'm interested to see what you think. And I loved the art. The art is very contentious as well for this first arc. So, but yeah, we'll get into that in the next episode of Hell Talk. So with that, we will see you guys in the next one.
See y'all later.
Bye.